On a recent episode of Clearmont's podcast Tech Talent Today, a very wise guest said when having a problem, you think to yourself, someone should really do something about this, and that you reflect on the fact that that person is probably you. Join me today as I talk to Clearmont's Kym Motley when she saw a problem and realized that she was the person to fix it. We'll be discussing her nonprofit, Gladys Love Project, which she named for her grandmother, which helps seniors and caregivers feel beautiful, seen, and loved. I hope you enjoy it. A bit about your grandma. I'd love to hear about her.
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, her name was Gladys, and she was just filled with life. She was sassy, she was fun, very exacting, but still, just filled with life. So I learned a lot from her. And as she started to age, she had some dementia, and I think she was 95. Yeah, she was 95 when she went into a nursing home, and I would visit her, with my mom several times a week. And what I noticed is that she still wanted her lipstick and her jewelry, even if she was in her pajamas. And, when she got to the point when she was not able to leave the home, like to go out on excursions, she still wanted her lipstick and jewelry. So I made jewelry for her. And because, as people get older, like using clasps are difficult. So I came up with, let's do these plastic, sparkly beads with an AB finish that look vintage, but you don't have to worry about chains and clasps and, just put it over your head. So I started making her jewelry like that, and she loved it. And then I always made sure she had lipstick, and she just came to life. And it was over a 10-year period that I was really thinking about, how can I turn this into a program or an art project or some type of initiative that would make seniors feel alive, and then also remind others that we've got these wise and wonderful people here that we need to pay attention to.
I absolutely love that. You saw like an opening and a need for something. And not only did you fill it with like the jewelry and the clasp, which is brilliant, but also the Gladys Love Project.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, though. I think if I read correctly, that she lived till 99 years old. Is that?
That's correct. Yeah.
What is the secret? I must know. Do you have it? Is it the lipstick? I mean, what do you think it was? The sass?
I think it was having fun and being connected to friends. I joke that, she still smoked and drank and ate candy. But
maybe that's the secret.
I wouldn't recommend that to everyone. But it really was just, every day my grandmother was either on the phone talking to friends or having people over, or having a cocktail and chatting. And yeah, it was just enjoying every moment of life, basically.
I love that. So she kept her social networks and still like had a lot of joy. She wasn't eating kale every day.
Right.
I love that. And you did answer a little bit of the question that I'm going to ask, but I guess if you want to expand on why you started the Gladys Love Project. You started a little bit, but I love what you said and your motto. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So after my grandmother passed, my father was ill with cancer, and he had cancer twice. And the third time it was pancreatic cancer. And this touches a little bit on daily modern living, but through caregiving for him, and also my little kitty named Inky, it just really underscored for me to live in the moment. And, that time is precious. I felt privileged to take care of my dad in his final days. And I learned so much from my experience with my kitty, which happened 6 months before my dad. And so Daily Modern was born out of that, but it also started to underscore, it's like back to seniors, here's this population of people, along with caregivers who are not as visible as they should be. Right. So from my experience with my dad, I wrote the guidebook on how to, support or how to help your dying loved ones live, so in the book I talk about what you can do for your loved one, and then if you're a friend, what you can do. So a lot of people don't know how to show up, and so that it's just some suggestions, like I had to learn to let people help me, and I had friends show up and they were like, I could go to the grocery store, I could drop off food, and from that experience, I was like, okay, there's this laundry list of things to do. There's no shortage when you're caregiving. So, let this little page help you. Like, write down the names of people who are going to do X, Y, and Z for you, and then have one person be a central point of contact, that kind of thing. So
I love the practical solutions that you're providing, because people get overwhelmed. Like, caregiving is a really tough job. Right. And I think you mentioned, right, there was a book I think you wrote called Inky, My Dad and Me on Amazon.
Yeah.
And that has the Caregiver's Guide. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Okay. And it's short. It's not a novel. And, I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, I'm not writing it from that perspective, but it was more of here's a layperson's guide and a crash course to taking care of someone who's dying.
That is great, because I don't know if sometimes there's just not practical advice that you can get from someone who's in the trenches.
Exactly.
So one of my questions was, which you may have answered, but like, what would be your best piece of advice for caregivers who are feeling depleted? Is it the central contact? Is it that list? Is that, if you could just give like one thing to tell them?
Yeah, and this ties into daily modern living too, but what I find is at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, just list 2 or 3 things you're grateful for, and if you're really struggling, just one. But that's really what got me through my experience. And then recently, Bonnie, I took care of my mother who just passed. So I just got back to my New York City apartment last week, but I just ran out of here last October with a little suitcase when they told me my mom was going into hospice. Oh, wow. So I've been in Charlotte for 10 months taking care of her. And that was a true test because I was out of my element. Like I was thinking today, I'm so happy I'm going to make soup later and I can put music on and I've got my chef's knives and my tools and, but I was a little nomad for 10 months and lived with family and friends and popped around in guest rooms and, bought clothes from Target. And, but, my main thing was I have to be there for mom, so even on those tough days where I missed my apartment, I was grieving the loss of my mom before she died because Alzheimer's takes you in little pieces. Yes. I just went back to, today I'm really thankful for my nephew and his wife who have let me stay in their guest room. Today I'm really thankful for my friends Chris and Robert who let me stay in their guest room and made dinner and, so that when I come home, I don't have to do one more thing.
That's right. The attitude of gratitude that everybody likes to talk about, to just find that one thing you're grateful for, or 2 better.
And if you do that and just sit for 10 minutes, you have to have time for yourself every day. Otherwise you don't have the energy to support your loved one. And if you deplete yourself enough, your body will will stop you.
That's right. It'll force you to relax.
Yeah, exactly.
You make such a good point too, Kym, about how grateful you were to go back to your apartment with your things and your, like I said, your knives or your cooking, whatever you love to do in your own space. So if you're able to at least be caregiving in your own space, or close to, at least you can maybe rejuvenate yourself a little bit. In like a space you love, that can maybe help too. What about from the other perspective? So if you're like a friend of someone who is going to be caregiving, what's the best thing you could tell them to do to help support?
I think the best thing is active listening. And in my guidebook, I say like, listen with your heart, so we don't always know what to say. Most of the time we don't know what to say, especially if someone's condition is terminal. But just showing up and being an ear for your friend is a gift, because sometimes you can't do anything to make it better.
Right.
But just being there and being a safe place for someone to talk about what they're afraid of, or just talk about their day, or,
Right.
tell them a joke. It's, never too late for comedy.
I love that's right. I love that. You're right. That always reduces some stress if you could,
Yeah.
a good funny joke is great.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get back a little bit to more of this Gladys Love Project. And I said, I love your mission, right? So I wrote down your mission to remind seniors and caregivers that they are seen, beautiful, and loved. So tell me
Yeah.
about that. How did you come up with that? And how do you support that? Care packages, I know you talked about. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So seeing beautiful and loved is basically just acknowledging their presence, letting them know, hey, we love you. You're special. You're wise. You're wonderful. And the love part just kind of goes into the being seen and feeling beautiful. So we started with the idea of jewelry, and then the pandemic hit. So we weren't able to gather groups to make jewelry. So we shifted to having our love kits, which is what we call our care packages, and having cards in there. So we call them love notes. We love the word love.
Yes, love is a good word.
We have our love notes. I was looking here to see, I have a whole box of, I'm just going to grab one, Bonnie.
Yeah, that'd be terrific. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So I have a college friend who's an illustrator, and she created these postcards for us, and they're all titles of love. So her brand is called Ideal Bookshelf. And she does, this is just a side note, but she does what she calls shelfies. So you could send her like a list of your favorite books, or pick from her like library of 4,000 book titles, and then she'll do this design for you. So I asked if she could donate to us postcards. And so on the back of our love notes, we write in Sharpie markers or pen, like a positive affirmation, like you are wonderful or you are loved, just something to brighten their day. And then we also include an activity, a love-centered activity. So it's like a one-pager, and it talks about like, what's your favorite color? What music do you like? What advice would you give a younger person? And the idea there is that it will get them excited about the things that they love. And then the staff and other people around them learn more about that resident. So that could end up in the hall. It could be posted in the room so that when people come in, they could see, oh, Gladys's favorite color is purple, so when you get her dress for today, look for something purple, just little things. And that makes someone feel seen, if you know something about them and make a connection. We also include in our love kit a Spotify playlist, so that the activity director can put on music. Music is very therapeutic and gets seniors excited, just like anyone else.
Yes, of course, absolutely.
And then also sometimes we'll toss in treats, like we'll send cookies to go along, or sometimes the activity directors provide that. But the idea is to provide this experience in a box, or party in a box. So Jean and Melissa, our other board members, we all, and especially over this year with me being in North Carolina, it's like we would all mail cards to Melissa, and she would put the package together, and she's wrapping everything in like red ribbons and putting confetti and tissue paper in there, and just making it this really positive experience for the senior community. One of the more recent programming items that we added and we want to do more of is taking senior portraits.
Yes.
So at my mom's facility, with an iPhone, because again, I'm a little nomad, I took photos of all the residents in memory care and assisted living. So you basically have like two different audiences.
Right.
Assisted living side are mostly like dementia, Alzheimer's patients. There could be a range of, conditions that brought someone to the place.
Yes.
On the memory care side, it's mainly Alzheimer's patients.
Right.
But we had so much fun taking photos, and it turned into this big event because the residents would stay after you took their photo and they watched the others, and music was on, and the nurses were excited because they got them dressed up and put makeup on, and everyone was just feeling good. It was like a really good vibe. And so that's part of, again, of fitting into our mission of being seen.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. It sort of reminds me of what you said about your grandmother, which she would put on her lipstick. You had everyone put on makeup for these like senior portraits. And then also she had a social network. So you do the activities that gets everybody sort of socializing with favorite colors and looking out for, say, purple. And and the jewelry, it sort of reminds me of what you said was really some of the key to your grandmother's success.
Yeah.
I think of living so long and happily, it sounds like. So,
yeah, just feeling a connection,
yeah, definitely. And how have the responses been from like the caregivers and the seniors from all this, the love packages and everything?
We've gotten so every time we send out a love kit, and especially since we're a new nonprofit, we've been gathering feedback via surveys, and the activity directors have had really good feedback that everyone, enjoyed it. They had a good time. They've been posting pictures on Instagram with the cards and different activities. And for the portrait day, that went really well. The residents were super excited. And we did 2 prints. So we sent two prints to my mom's senior community, and they mailed one to the family, and the other they kept, so they could put it in their room or in front of their door. Most places have like a little, glass case where you could put things in that are special. So again, like seeing someone's picture, it's like, oh, that's Susie. It's not just a name and she's in room 102, but this is what she looks like. And, so.
As you said, make them feel seen.
Exactly.
They're not invisible. Oh, that's fantastic. I also read that you partnered with a senior living at Wickshire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but how did that happen?
That's correct. So again, it all goes back to my mom. So I, had a good relationship with the activity director at my mom's facility, and it's part of a chain. I think they have 19 senior communities in the US. So I talked with the activity director, and she put me in touch with their corporate office, and we pitched the idea of doing this national program. So we worked with them to, identify like what does the programming look like? We'll have the love kits, and then, we don't want to forget about the nurses. We have pins that say you are wonderful. I'm looking on my desk
Let's see if
again.
you can find a pin, right?
I can send you a picture. I can send you a picture.
That'd be terrific.
They're little lapel pins that they can wear that say you are wonderful. So we've started making like little cards that say thank you for supporting our seniors or taking care of our seniors, and then we give them the pin. So it's like everybody, needs to be seen and feel appreciated, because it's such a symbiotic relationship,
Yes.
Nurses and aides are taking care of your loved one. Unfortunately, they're not paid nearly enough. But it's like, if the aide's not happy, then you don't get great care.
That's right.
You're taking care of my mom. I really appreciate you.
Yes.
What can I do to show that?
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. So that's how it started, how you partnered up with the community. What about some of the youth? I read that sometimes you had, before COVID, some of like the schools, they would make the jewelry for you. Like how?
That was our plan. That's what so I need to do a ton of website updates that I've just been behind on with the caregiving, but we shifted a little bit. But now that things are opening up again, we're noodling on how to add jewelry back into the programming. So
Right.
we were thinking of either having, we could have activities for places where the residents could make their own jewelry, or we could send kits to volunteers to make and then send back to us. Or we could just make some and sell them,
Right.
or all three.
Right. You could do a variety. You could incorporate
Yeah.
all of that. That is so true. That
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
true. How do you manage, Kym, to do
Mhm.
all these projects? You work full time, you do all these projects. You're just like, oh, I see a need. I'm going to start a nonprofit. Like, how do
Yeah.
you find the time, and how do you know how to do this? Like, just I'm going to start a
So,
nonprofit.
the IT Kim does product management and BA work. So
Okay.
it usually entails go find out about this thing that you know nothing about and then build it. So it's like I'm curious by nature. And the pandemic really provided that extra time. So on the weekends and the evenings, I was sitting at my coffee table, just sketching out ideas. And then I asked my friends if they would join my board, and they said yes. And so we've just been this, small but mighty team. And then when I started taking care of mom, I did not work for, I want to say 6 months, 8 months. Or 6 months of that time. But I also had the opportunity to work on Gladys Love Project, in the minutes and hours between caregiving for mom, and participated in an incubator program with a nonprofit foundation called the Greater Sum. So, they're all about helping new nonprofits kind of level up and start to think about scaling and growing. So that was wonderful. And then in the midst of caregiving, I was thinking it would be great if I could find a part-time, assignment. And I really thought I needed, this is a long-winded answer, Bonnie.
That's okay.
I really thought I needed 15 hours a week because mom, hospice nurse, said mom could be here for a few more months. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't been working for 8 months. I still have rent to pay. I still have bills to, take care of. So I contacted CPG and asked my old boss if they needed help for like 3 hours a day. And she said yes. And so it was like, oh, great. Let's get in touch with Jody and make this happen. And then right after all that, Bonnie, my mom died.
Oh my goodness.
So I was like, well, I always wanted to get to the part-time work. I didn't think it would happen this way.
Right.
But then after, my mom passed, I thought, well, this is what I wanted. Maybe I can scale back my hours and be able to do both. So now I'm working about 28 to 30 hours a week for CPG. And I'm happy to be back with Jody and you guys. And then I have the rest of the afternoon to work on Daily Modern Living and Gladys Love Project.
Yeah, it's nice to have time for
and
some
it's part
passion.
of my reason to moving back home.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And it comes with something else. So I'm moving back to North Carolina, and the cost of living is cheaper there.
Yes.
So I'm enjoying my 2 months in my New York City apartment, and then I'm going home, but it'll be great. There are a lot of people there waiting to support me, and my college friends, all my friends have just been wonderful. So a new chapter. And I'll have to come back to visit New York City. Yeah. But it was just so important to me during that time. It really underscored the need for this programming, because basically I became a part-time CNA, for 6 or 8 hours a day.
That's right.
So I saw firsthand like all the things that happen in a day and all the things that, people are juggling to take care of your loved one. So I was like, I don't want to give that up. I still need to work on this. So yeah.
Right. How do you physically, do you have like a schedule, the calendar? Like, how do you does it take a lot of organization to work on passion projects and then like what they call like your regular job, the logistics?
I've learned to not be too rigid. So I'm a planner, and normally I would want to see every a plan for everything. And what I'm realizing is that you don't have all the answers, and that's an awesome reason why you have a board and volunteers.
Right.
We put our heads together and come up with great ideas that I don't think we would come up with by ourselves, you know?
Right.
And then I'm learning to just handle the most important thing, you know? So like this week, now that I'm back in my apartment and I'm getting settled, I'm figuring out my schedule, you know? So now, you know, from 2:30 to 5 or 6, I can spend time, you know, creating social posts or working on a newsletter or, you know, talking to a friend of mine who's going to help us with grant writing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and updating the website. So I can't do all of those, you know, in one day or 1 week. But if I just think about what's the most important thing what's the thing that would make an impact this week? And
Right.
so I think the thing that's most impactful this week, well, A, chatting with you, and B,
Thank you.
updating the website, you know? So
Right.
yeah, and if those two things get done, then awesome, you know, and then we'll go to the next thing and shift if we need to.
I love it. So prioritizing things, knowing
Mhm.
what will make an impact, and depending on other people. I guess we still need community and other people to
Yeah,
help us out.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what rejuvenates you when you feel depleted? Like, even though it's a passion project, I mean, every one of us, you know, even though we love something, you know, sometimes we just have so many responsibilities, we just feel sort of sucked out. So
Mhm.
what gets you like hopped up again?
Um, Going out into nature. So I'll take a walk to Central Park. I'll probably do that this evening. And cooking. I love to cook.
Cooking, yeah.
And music. So I'm getting back in my habit of meditating every morning for 10 minutes. It's short, you know, I use the Calm app and do their daily calm, but just to sit, you know, in my spot and do that to start every day is great. I've learned to not turn on the news in the morning. It's like,
Yes.
don't start the day with that. Otherwise,
That's,
you'll
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Do you address some of that? Like, I don't know if you want to tell a little bit about modern daily living. I
oh,
know
daily
that, like,
monitoring.
enjoying
Yeah.
the small things in life and
In fact, I did a workshop in May, and I'm going to do it again, called How to Find Joy in the Midst of Uncertainty. And it was really rooted in like the world's on fire. You know,
Yes.
how do you how do you stay sane? I mean, because it can be so overwhelming from so many angles. You know, if you're personally affected, and then the feeling of I can't change, you know, like I can't solve the war in Ukraine, you know, and
Right,
then you
right.
feel hopeless. But you know, I think remembering that we have all these opportunities to make little choices every day. So like starting, you know, with meditation, or really like active listening with a friend, you know, like that stuff really matters. And then also, you know, I say if you walk through the gates of gratitude, you will find joy, meaning that if you go back to that gratitude practice, what are you thankful for, you know, today? So today at work, I had a great day, but let's just say it was stressful. You know, at the end of the day, I could say, you know, I'm really thankful for being able to make a pot of chicken soup in my kitchen.
Right,
You
right.
know? I'm grateful for, you know, the time to walk to Central Park. Um, and those are good things, you know? So it's just grounding yourself back in that practice of, no, I can't solve the war. You know, if my meeting went sideways, you know, we'll do better next time. But these two things I'm grateful for. And making soup, you know, it just leads to another good conscious choice of putting good things in your body, you know?
Yes.
So
Also,
yeah.
somehow soup feels so comforting. Just like you said, conjures up ideas of comfort and warmth. You know,
Mhm.
you have a bowl of, sometimes even if you're just grateful that the day is coming to a close.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to, but I like yours better. And I also, what I got out of that too was that the little things that you can control, like you can decide to get up early and meditate. You could decide not to watch the television.
right.
You know, so you can make some choices. Because one of my questions was going to be, which I think you may have answered, what advice do you give people who are going through hard times to how
Yeah.
to still find joy? You know, sometimes
Yeah.
life is, as you know, more difficult than other times. And what can you tell someone? Would
Yeah.
it be what we
So
discussed? What would you say to them?
I would add on to what I mentioned earlier to say, surround yourself in things that bring you joy. And if you're like, I don't know what that is, I'm stressed, I'm tired,
Yeah.
think about the five senses. And this is what I focus on in my workshop of, having something visual. So like if you love the color pink, how can you bring that into your environment?
Right.
If you like music, listening to music that's uplifting, there's what they call high vibrational music, that is, good words, upbeat. It really does make a difference in your day. And so, yeah, go through the five senses of. So for smell, it's like essential oils,
Yes.
or it could be, what your chicken soup smells like. Taste is, finding your favorite foods. And I have to admit, one of my favorite foods are French fries. Can't eat those all the time, but
Right. What's not to like about French fries? But I know what you're saying.
But like coffee brings me joy. I start my day with a cup of coffee. So it's like, that's a must. So yeah, going through the five senses and finding things that make you happy and bring that into your environment. It can be simple. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it really does make your day better.
I love that because one of the human experiences I think that we all have is that sometimes life is tough for all of us at different times. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like during COVID, we all experienced a difficult time together.
Yeah.
So having these tools to say, right, the five senses and how could I bring what I love in each sense into my
Yeah.
life for a little bit of joy. That's good advice.
Right. And Bonnie, I would add on to that,
Yeah.
these past 10 months have really, tested, me. I had to really practice what I preach because
Yes.
I'm out of my environment. I had uncertainty with my mom.
Yes.
Wasn't sure from week to week where I was going to stay. And I had some long stints with friends and family. But, I was also thinking I don't want to, burden them too much with, being here. But they were all very gracious. But I learned, I'll bring flowers into my guest room, or,
Right.
I could cook a meal and treat my host to something, so I would ask, can I take over your kitchen? It really shifted my idea of home too, instead of having a huge attachment to like the physical stuff. It started to make me think in abstract form, like, oh, I need to bring color into my guest room. I need to have my coffee. I need to cook, occasionally, and do things that will make me happy while I'm here.
I like that. I have a strange desire to eat soup tonight. I don't know. Suddenly I'm feeling like I want soup for dinner. So what do you think if Gladys were here today, what do you think she would say about all of this?
Oh, my grandmother would be so excited. And she would tell all her friends. And what else? And I think she would tell me, just keep going. My grandmother was an innovator and someone who didn't just sit around waiting for things to happen. She made things happen. And my mom was the same. So I feel like I learned very much from them, that if you see a need, to fill it, don't just sit around and complain, but do something about it.
Yeah. And it's also about being seen and making an impact. What do you think grandparents can do with their grandchildren now that would make a big impact on their lives?
I have fond memories of, and it's the little things like going to my grandmother's house and having ice cream sandwiches, or my grandmother always went on vacation with us. But I think my favorite memories were just having her next door. So spending just time with them, be it sitting outside eating ice cream or sharing a meal. And if we still need to Zoom, that's good too. But I could see my grandmother, really enjoying me, like brushing her hair, or having a meal with her. Anything that is centered around community, I think would make them feel welcome.
I love that, because
Yeah.
sometimes I think grandparents feel they have to take their grandchildren to some grandiose thing when really you're saying the simple things
Yeah.
could make a
Yeah.
huge impact, because not every
Yeah.
grandparent can do these things. Some of them are more
Exactly.
homebound or
Hmm.
fed in a home. So
Yeah.
what can people do to like learn more about your organization and get involved? How do they help? How do they get involved?
Sure. So you can follow us on social. Our handles are Gladys Love Project, and also check out our website, which is gladysloveproject.org. And we welcome donations to help support our cause. We welcome volunteers. We always need people to write love notes, so we can mail you cards if you want to decorate them and send back to us. Or if you're interested in helping us with some of our marketing efforts, like social, we're looking for volunteers for that as well.
That is great. And I'd love if you could send me all the links and information. I'd love
Sure.
to be able to, wherever, this goes, we'd like to put that
Yeah.
so people, it makes it really easy. I love
Yeah.
to make it easy for people. They can just
Yeah.
click on the link. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Is there anything else you want to add that you think of that anyone should know about, the
Mm.
your book, your many passion projects, or anything you want to
Yeah.
add?
I would say, and I've been on a little hiatus since my mom passed,
Yeah.
but what's really been on my mind lately and what I think I'll write about next is just the power of one person, and how, I think about my mother was a teacher and my grandmother as well, and the impact they had on others. And just, if you ever have an idea or you think that, well, I'm just one person, what impact will that make? It's tremendous, whether you talk to a stranger on the street and brighten their day, or if you're, teaching and you inspire a kid, you can change the whole trajectory of their lives, or just, being a great friend. It's like your presence matters, and every little thing, counts.
Yes, coming back to a small act of kindness
Yeah,
again, and one person can make a difference. I love that. And
exactly.
community. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. That's
yeah.
fantastic. This has been so great, Kym. Thank you so
Oh,
much.